Carl here from Metal Wani, and this evening I am once again enjoying the great pleasure of hanging out with one of my favourite personalities to talk music with. From his time playing guitar in Liquid Tension Experiment to the Grammy Award-winning Dream Theater, as well as his own vibrant solo career, it is of course none other than John Petrucci. And as I said, John, thanks for hanging out today. It's so great to see you, my friend.
Great to see you too, Carl. Really nice talking to you tonight.
Yeah, likewise. And listen, last time we spoke, we were in the midst of a pandemic, not sure if, when, or how we were ever going to figure out touring again and life in general, really. So I just want to start by asking, how are you keeping? How have you been, man?
Yeah, there was a crazy period there. You know, I got through it by making a lot of music, basically taking advantage of that time at home to do some things that I didn't have a chance to do. Previously, my solo album, Liquid Tension Experiment 3, I mean, the solo album was 15 years since the last one. Liquid Tension was like 22 years or something. And then the new Dream Theater record. So a lot of music. And then, you know, it was weird because we really didn't know when touring was going to happen. And like, if it did, what's it going to look like? And then bands started to do it, and then people would get sick, and the tour would shut down. And you know, we actually had a European tour that we had booked, and then we moved because of that. You mentioned the Grammys. I mean, that was moved and postponed and moved to Vegas. So everything was in such a weird state. I feel, obviously, you know, people are still getting sick, but people are living with it, you know, and life has moved on. Touring is back in swing. So I feel like we're kind of back to normal in many, many ways. But yeah, it was weird there for a while, wasn't it?
Absolutely was. And you touched on so much there that you've been working on that I can't wait to ask you about. But I know that we're here today to talk specifically about your upcoming solo tour featuring Mike Portnoy, Dave LaRue, as well as special guest Meanstreak. And I've so much I'm excited to ask you about, man. But first of all, I want to congratulate you, because I remember when we spoke back when Terminal Velocity came out, you said that, you know, when we did start to come out of the pandemic, your primary focus would absolutely be Dream Theater. But you did have that desire, whether it was a G3 tour or a solo run, to do something else. And now you're making that happen. And I guess the reason I'm recalling this is to highlight that for anyone who may be aware, this upcoming tour wasn't necessarily something that just came to your mind recently. This is something you've been eager to do for a while. Would this be fair to say?
That's absolutely fair to say, and it's a really good point. And it also kind of illustrates a little bit of, you know, the type of career that I have, and the way that time is invested so heavily in Dream Theater, as it should be, and that the things that, you know, are kind of these wish list things. Like, it would be great to do a solo album. It would be great. They kind of like fall on the back burner a little bit, but it's not for lack of not wanting to do it. It's like, yeah, man, if I have time to do a solo tour, now that I have two solo albums out, I will jump on that. And so in this case, I saw a hole in the Dream Theater schedule, you know, about 5-6 months out. I'm like, called my agent. I'm like, can we book something here? Like, just do it, you know? So yeah, that's totally fair to say. And, it will be like 2 years after this record came out.
Yeah.
But it's for the reasons you said, you know, as soon as touring went back, Dream Theater got busy again, and then there you are.
Absolutely. And it's amazing that you say that about when you saw that pocket, you jumped at it, because one of the things that stood out to me immediately was that there are periods during this tour when you are quite regularly doing 4 shows, 5 shows back to back with maybe 1 day's rest in between. Now, I know you and the guys are no strangers to touring, but still, whether you're a veteran or a newcomer, this is quite a test of endurance for any artist. So does a tour like this demand a different level of self-care, maintenance, or even preparation as opposed to ones that have a bit more breathing space between the dates?
Yeah, well, it's really cool that you brought that up. You know, the stark contrast is Dream Theater just came back from South America. We played 4 shows in 2 weeks, I think it was. Yeah, so the solo tour moves very fast, and there's a lot of 5s in a row, day off, 5 in a row, day off. You know, a lot of that has to do with the artist and what kind of tour you want to do and how you communicate that to your agent and to your management. And for me, listen, I love playing guitar. If I'm out there doing a solo tour, I can play every night. Like I just, so as few days off as possible. I just want to play, and this way you can kind of get the most amount of shows in whatever period that you have to do. Because again, I'm not going to have these chunks of time very often.
Yeah.
And so, it's a little bit different preparation, I guess, as a guitar player doing a solo tour and just having all the weight be on me. Like, there's probably more preparation as far as practicing and making sure I'm like tip top shape to get it, because it's just a trio and the guitar is featured. But I have such a great band playing with me that they carry so much weight between Portnoy on drums and LaRue on bass. It's just going to be fantastic. I love playing as a trio. It's a different type of vibe. There's no vocals, no keyboards, no rhythm guitar. It's just guitar, bass, drums. It's in your face. It's cool. I used to go see the Dregs or Steve Moore's band. Of course, Rush. It's just a great. It's a great setup. I love that.
I love that, because especially like you're saying there with the lineup, even though the three of you are stellar musicians, there's nothing to hide behind. It's exactly what you get, right?
No, there's no hiding. Yeah, there's no hiding. So maybe a little bit more time practicing, making sure I get all the notes right as often as possible.
It's beautiful, man. It's beautiful. When you're talking about these seldom found chunks of time, it's interesting because when I scroll through your comments, specifically the ones that are announcing this upcoming tour, typically I see two kinds of comments. One is this wonderful childlike excitement for this upcoming tour and the lineup you have for it. And the other is fans across the pond begging, pleading, crying that you guys are going to take this overseas and possibly beyond. Do you think that's within the realm of possibility for your fans in the UK, Europe, 2022, 2023? Is that something a conversation that's ever been had?
Yeah, sure. I mean, you're great because you pick up on all the things that
thank you.
I'm very aware of, but nobody really mentions. Yeah, as soon as you post about a tour, it's come to Brazil, come to Indonesia, come to. Is it going to Italy? Are you going to play in Germany? It's like a lot of it, and I love that because we have such amazing fans all over the world. So, unfortunately, not in the near future, because I do know what the Dream Theater touring schedule looks like for next year, and it's pretty hefty. However, when there is another little pocket, I would love to take this over, to Europe, to Asia. I think it'd be so much fun. For me, as many times as I've done the G3 tour experience with Joe and played as a trio with my solo band, and I've done that many times. I've never done a solo tour. I never booked a John Petrucci tour. So this tour is kind of like getting my feet wet, which sounds funny at 55 years old. But, it'll be fun. And if there is an opportunity next year at some point to say, hey, listen, Dream Theater is not touring. I got these 2 months and I can make it happen. I would absolutely love to do that. I would love to bring it over there for sure. That's
amazing, man. And I really, by the way, appreciate you taking the time to share the kind words. There's no greater compliment. I really appreciate that. And we've spoken a number of times over the years, and I'm not one that cares for superficial or sensationalized tabloid headlines. Yeah. Perhaps that makes me terrible at my job, but it's not my style.
No.
But we mentioned a few moments ago that your support act for this tour is the group Meanstreak, whose Facebook page cites them as the original all-female metal band. And I love this, by the way. But for anyone who may be unaware, can you share with us who Meanstreak are and how they came to be this awesome opening act for these shows?
Oh, absolutely. And it's so special to me. In some ways, the bigger deal is not that I'm doing a solo tour. It's that Meanstreak is so the history is that back in the day when my wife and I were dating, she was in a band called Meanstreak. Now, the band comprised of my soon-to-be wife, Mike Portnoy's soon-to-be wife, and John, my young soon-to-be wife. So basically 3 members of Dream Theater married 3 members of Meanstreak. We all kind of got married in the same or so time period. We all attended everyone's weddings. We all sort of had kids around the same time. Our families are very tied in. When you hear about bands being families, I mean, these are relationships that you have forever, whether or not Mike Portnoy is in Dream Theater or not. It doesn't matter. You know, these are family relationships. Yeah. So anyway, Meanstreak was great. I used to see them all the time. We actually opened for them one or 2 times.
That's so cool.
Yeah. Yeah, they used to play a lot, and then they disbanded. And my wife, Raina, she's continued to have a career as a guitar player, but she decided to do a Meanstreak reunion recently. I said, listen, if I ever do a solo tour, I'd love to have you open. I've never toured with my wife. She said, great. And, of course, the solo tour opportunity came up. I said, Raina, you guys want to open? She's like, absolutely.
That's an amazing story.
So here you go.
I love that. Thank you for sharing, and I hope that doesn't completely undo the compliments you gave me there a moment.
No. Once again, I love that you brought that up. It to me, it's really special. I think it's a unique experience for, there's so many bands, and we tour all over the world and everything. Like, how many get the opportunity to, like, as a husband and wife, to tour together with your respective band? That's like so rare. So I'm looking forward to it. And I think it's also a real treat, I think, for any Dream Theater fan who appreciates the things you're bringing up, like Mike and I playing together again, or Meanstreak opening. There's a history there that people, if they weren't around back in the day, they've heard the story before. Oh yeah, weren't there wives in the band? Like, they're going to get to see that. And to me, it's just like so cool.
I love that. I absolutely love that. Every time you answer a question, John, I could ask you 3 additional questions, but I'll try to stick to it. But no, I absolutely love that. I love that you're bringing the music, but I love that you're kind of bringing a sense of history and family to these shows as well, which is truly special, especially if you're in the know. And I think that's amazing. And I'd love to talk to you a little bit also about Temple of Circadia, which you just released as a single with a wildly enjoyable animated video accompanying it by Wade Joyner. And apologies if I butchered the pronunciation there.
No, you're right.
But the response to the song and the video from fans has been one of elation. But I'm curious because, as you mentioned earlier, Terminal Velocity and Temple of Circadia, this was the closing track on an album that came out back in 2020. So were this song and video something you had always intended to release at some point, and how did it come to find itself here with us this week, 2 years later?
Right. Well, you mentioned Wayne, and he's a brilliant video director who's done so much work for Dream Theater and for me. And he, like you said, the album came out 2 years ago, so why are we releasing a video now? This was an idea. He's a guitar player. He's a huge fan. He had this idea of doing an animated epic adventure.
It's so fun. It's so fun.
Indiana Jones kind of thing with me. And it was something we talked about it, but it wasn't necessarily part of the main campaign for the release of the album. It was just this idea. He said he always wanted to do it. He wanted to expand, on what he can do as a video director and do something different. And he had this great idea of implanting all these Easter eggs of like different things related to my career, whether they be my guitars or solo albums or song titles or Dream Theater stuff. So he implanted all these different little hints in the thing. And, we did talk about like, when would we release it? Like, the timing is so arbitrary. Like, it's 2 years later, but I think the fact that I'm doing a solo tour, the timing is kind of perfect now, because now it kind of brings it back. The attention comes back to, oh yeah, this album that came out 2 years ago, I'm finally touring for it, and here's a really cool video to get you excited. That's how that timing really worked out. I'm really glad it did. If I didn't have the tour and we just released it now, it might even be more arbitrary. So at least it's in line with the timing of the upcoming tour.
Absolutely. And if you ever decide to go the animated series graphic novel route, I'm in. All right, I'm in. It would
cool.
It would be so
awesome.
fun. But you know, it's funny. We talk about your music and your fans, and I think when it comes to the likes of, you know, you, Mike, and Dave, it's funny because fans, I think, have a hard time imagining you guys struggling to nail down any composition because you're the prog guys, right? But I remember speaking to Jordan around the time you, Mike, and Tony were releasing the Liquid Tension record, and he debunked this idea when he spoke specifically about trying to lock into the guitar riff on Beating the Odds. And he made me laugh because he said something along the lines of, you know that it's prog when you need to take an Advil to get it right. So I wonder, in preparation for this tour, rehearsing, orchestrating your set list and giving sequence to it, were there any of those Advil moments that were particularly challenging to achieve when building this set list for this tour?
I think I'm having one now that you're bringing up.
I'm so sorry.
No, I'm joking. You know, well, here's the funny thing. I've said this before, but for anybody, you know, I don't know. Like, let's say for people who aren't musicians, I think most musicians understand this. But if you're not, and you go to see somebody play live, you're just kind of like, oh, that's how they play. Like, you buy your ticket, you have a concert Friday night, and you go and you expect them to play the way you hear them play. But there is a whole lot of preparation to get to that point where you can step on a stage and do what you do to the best of your ability. And the funny thing about the solo stuff is that when I write it and I record it, I'm doing it by myself. I'm not playing with a band. I'm recording guitar tracks, I'm programming drums, playing bass, and then I get Mike Portnoy to play drums on it, but we never actually played it together. Mm-hmm. So there's this whole bizarre Advil moment process where you have to now go back and learn. I have to literally learn what I did because I never actually played it as a full composition. You know, oh, how did I do that? Well, okay, now I'm playing as a trio, so which part do I play?
Right.
And then I play, and then I say to myself, really? I played that? Now I have to practice for 20 hours just to be able to do that live. You know, it's like almost like you're preparing for the Olympics or something. All these little routines that you have to do. So there is a lot of, it's just time, man. You know, first of all, I wouldn't do it if I didn't love it.
Yeah.
I love playing guitar. I love the craft of guitar playing, of trying to keep it at a high level. You know, it's challenging, and it takes a lot of hours. There's no getting around it. So, so I'm literally, if you were to come to my house at any time of the day, you'll just hear me practicing these songs, you know.
I love that.
Over and over, and taking the hard parts and looping them. And is there a better way to play this? And punching my hand. What's wrong with me? Why can't I? All that stuff.
Thank you for sharing that, and my sincere apologies for bestowing or giving an Advil moment to you.
Believe me, believe me, you didn't cause it.
But I promise I've only got a couple of questions left for you because I know we're coming to the end of our time. But it's interesting you say that because I remember when we last spoke, you explained how you had essentially written and recorded the entire album before anybody played on it. And that you spent the time tracking guitar and practicing it. Because I've spoken to artists before who've been kind enough to share with me about how they actually fell out of love with their instrument, and that journey of how they found their way back to it from going through similar things that you're talking about there. So I wonder, have you ever had that experience where after so many years living and breathing your craft through the guitar, have you ever found yourself in a place where you fell out of love with it and sort of kind of, I suppose, had to reevaluate your relationship with it in order to continue playing and making music?
I would say honestly, no. I haven't had that. I've had periods where I've come off a tour and then I just don't play my guitar for a couple of weeks. I've had that. Like I kind of need a break.
Yeah.
But I've never fell out of love with it. It's always something like I just feel like it's part of what I do, and I long for it. Like if I stay away from it too long, it's like I need to do it. And I love the challenge of it. There's something about every process along the way, whether it's the creative process where you're starting with nothing or a little lick or an idea, and then you build this whole song, and then you're in the studio and then communicating with the mix engineer and having this, there's that. And then trying to prepare it live, like you said, like we just talked about. And then fast forward, you're on stage and suddenly you could play this stuff with command, and you're looking at people and you're like, this is fun. This is like driving like a fast car. This is so cool. Mm-hmm. and you get this rush and you see the reaction. There's all things about it that keep that sort of love for it alive, you know. So no, I've never fallen out of love with it.
That's wonderful.
Music and guitar is a big part of my life that I really enjoy.
That's super wonderful and super inspiring to hear, John. And before I leave you, I'd be chased into the windmill by folks wielding fire and pitchforks if I didn't ask you just one question about Dream Theater, right?
Yeah, no problem.
Because there's been quite a bit of online speculation about you guys returning to the studio to make a new record with a tentative 2023 release, I believe. And if you'd be comfortable, can you shine a light on or debunk any of that speculation around what Dream Theater have in store?
Sure. Well, I would say that is not going to happen. And if I lay, you know, once you start to kind of lay this stuff out, you can see it really clearly. The fact is, the truth is that Dream Theater, like many bands, like all bands on the planet, had 2 years there where we just could not play live. We were just, you know, we were at home and there was nothing we could do about it. And now that it's opened back up, there's a lot of playing and a lot of touring that we would like to do. And so far, in support of you from the top of the world, you know, we've gone to Europe, we've done the U.S., we did only 2 shows in Asia and only 4 shows in South America. So in the bigger picture, when you look at the touring that Dream Theater generally does, we do a lot more than that. So 23, I know we're starting out returning to Europe, and we have some more legs to do. So I would say, just kind of thinking out loud with you here, you know, I couldn't see us back in the studio until like this time next year.
Gotcha.
You know, if you think about it, you go to Europe and maybe there's an Asian run, there's festivals in the summer that takes you to like July, or, you know, it's not going to be the fall until we say, okay, we're done with this, we're going to get back in the studio. And there lies in, when do I squeeze in a European solo tour?
Yes.
It's only 12 months in a year, and like I said, when you lay it out, you start to look at it, it gets eaten up. It goes by quickly. So yeah, I would debunk. Is that the right word?
Yeah.
Debunk?
Yeah.
A Dream Theater release in 2023. I would say 2024 for sure. Unless something drastically changes and we're just like, I
love it.
But I don't think so. I think we're psyched to make up for lost time and play a lot more concerts out there.
Rightfully so. And I'm always very humbled and privileged that you're comfortable enough to talk with me on that level, John. And listen, my friend, it has been a sincere pleasure seeing your face and talking to you again. I can only hope you've enjoyed this as much as I have. And,
absolutely.
Next time you get back here, unfortunately I missed you guys. Jordan invited me out and I missed you. But next time you're back over in Europe, I'll make sure to come and say hi. Thank you so much for your time today, John.
Absolutely. So great talking to you as always. Great seeing you. And so hopefully we will be in Europe in beginning of next year. So hopefully we'll see you then.
I would love that. Thank you so much, John. Have a great day, my friend.
You too, man. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.